Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Citation Advice periodical. Unfortunately, I'm flying solo today. The other guys had some bad eggnog over the holidays, so it'll just be me today. But we looked over the rosters together, talked about them. In fact, we were slated to record about a week ago, but we ended up talking too long about the crew and didn't have time to record. So let's get right into it today with the first of three rosters. Maximus Prime from the ATL fleet, and he says, I'm a VIP Zero player who wants to take his game to the next level. I've been playing for just over a year. I can hit 8-hour voyages pretty consistently, but I always find myself lacking some kind of resource, chronotons, honor, etc. My game is on a plateau now, and without having to put any hard cash into the game, I want to be able to hit 10-hour voyages and compete in faction events. Any direction for advice would be greatly appreciated. Thanks. Well, Maximus, the first thing that jumps out, of course, is the VIP Zero roster. And you're not going to have the resources, the tools that some paying players will have, but you still have a handful of great crew who I think will be very good citation choices, then a handful of crew who may not be the best, may not do it all, but are still worth the honor. So the first name on the list would be Tactical Officer Neelix. If you watched the show before, you've heard his name come up a lot. He is a fantastic Voyager. In fact, he's your number one overall voyage score right now that you don't have unsighted, except for Red Angel, who is a gauntlet crew. That's sort of an edge case. But the reason that's important is you really want to go for long-term investment as VIP Zero. You want these crew to still be putting in work 2-3 years down the line because you don't have the influx of honor to keep citing incremental choices. Now with that number 20 overall voyage score, No Name Namer has put together for us a voyage ranked drop spreadsheet where you can track based on historical data about what rank you can expect the crew to be on voyages in 6 months' time, a year time, 2 years' time. And Tactical Officer Neelix should still be a top 100 Voyager in 2 years' time. So that is pretty good insurance for your citations, besides him just being a powerhouse right now. Now, you only have one crew on your roster with over 1,000 security, and that will be Courier Burnham. I'm assuming you cite her up. We got these rosters a little while back, so he will be far and away your number one security option. That will help out in faction events, even if he doesn't get a bonus. And then the voyage powers is I almost said cherry on top, but that's the whole cake. And his security base would be the cherry on top. Number 2 on the list is Laborer Kirk. Again, you have no engineering bases over 1,000, so he'll be a monster there. He'll ride pretty much every shuttle unless you have exactly the right purple with the bonus for that week. Now, as for faction events, he is the event king. He has 20 events overall to date. 15 of them have been factions. So just as an average, 3 factions a year is outstanding. Never mind that he would make all the non-bonus seats for you as well. He's a great Voyager. Eng Command, I think, is in the bottom half of your voyage power ranks, and his power overall, I think he's just about in the top 60 as well. So he'll serve you in both areas that you're looking to help. Medic Jett Reno is 3rd overall, and of course everyone knows who that is. She came in the giveaway. She was also in a 6-pack earlier this year. Well, last year, I guess. I'm recording this right after the New Year's. So she already has that extra star on her. She's 2 of 5. I don't know if you put a citation on her already. If you did, that's a good choice. She's one of only 3 Med Voyagers in the top 50 ranks, which again will drop slower than the other ones. That's a good investment for your honor. And the last time I looked at Eng Med crew, about half of them had debuted in 6-packs. Now, as a VIP Zero player, that's a luxury you can't afford. So if you want to boost that area of your voyages, which everyone does, Med Eng and Med Command are the 2 universally lowest areas of power on voyages because they just don't print that many crews. So Medic Reno, fitting that niche perfectly, having 2 stars already, is a great choice. And I would recommend it for pretty much any roster. Anyone in the game could benefit from what she offers. Next up, Tribble Herder Scotty, another Eng crew, and like Tech Neelix, he is your second highest unsighted voyage score. He's going to drop slower. He's going to last longer. He has that big Eng base, number 2 overall in the game. So just like Laborer Kirk, he'll run a lot of shuttles for you, even without a bonus. And in that same vein, Queen Poe, at 2 stars out of 5, she covers a lot of the same ground as Tribble Herder Scotty. Her base is very similar. Her voyage power isn't quite as big, but you have a bigger need right now in the Eng Dip voyage pair. So she has that extra star. She hits that pair that you're hurting a little more on, and she does have a lot of great traits, including collection value. Next up, seems to be a theme here, Med crew, Leonardo da Vinci. He's made a lot of these citation device shows too, and his power is a little bit lower than the other crew, but he has fantastic traits. Again, no name namer, he's spitting out spreadsheets like you wouldn't believe. He has calculated the chance that a crew will hit a trait on a voyage, which adds about 85 to 100 voyage points in that particular voyage for the crew, and he has an absurd rate. It's like 97% of the time he'll have a voyage or he can fit a trait match as well. He also has those double collections. Again, a Eng base, it's just under 1100 without bonuses. So if your other crew, the other two Eng crew that we just talked about, are tied up on voyages or what have you, he'll also make shuttles, even though he's really more of a voyage crew. So now we start to get to crew with a little bit of a downside. And the first one up, a lot of players will have. You can ask them about him and they'll be able to give you a detailed answer. That's mere Jean-Luc Picard. He's there at 1 out of 5. His bases are not great, but Curry or Burnham, if you fuse her up, will only be your second command base over 1,000. So with him slotting in at number 3, never mind that he does get bonuses. Again, a lot of traits. Picard has had, I believe, multiple events in every calendar year. You're going to get a lot of use out of him, more than you would think on shuttles because of your particular roster. And then, of course, he's still good on voyages. He's right around rank 40. He has a lot of good traits to trigger antimatter. And then that mirror collection there, I know that by necessity can't be a big priority for VIP 0. They, expecting to immortalize 20 plus golds or whatever to complete diplomat is just not realistic. But mirror, if it helps you hit the 25 threshold, maybe down the line the 40 threshold, there is a little bit of value in that because of how many bad mirror crew they are. Up next we have Reverend Phlox. Again, this is another big voyage boost crew. He's there at 1 of 5. You have 3 med command options in the game. One of them is in the honor hall with pretty poor voyage power overall. So Reverend Phlox, already having him as a VIP 0 roster, I think is a great boon. So he's a little bit lower on the list because he's not going to help out much on faction events, which is what you're aiming for. But on voyages, he, even with the lower power, will make med command runs for you for years and years down the line. Then after that, we have Baul again at 1-5. He's really more of a precision piece on most rosters. He doesn't have a lot of antimatter traits, but maybe one of the best skill sets in the game for voyages. And again, lacking that security base, he'll only be the second one that we recommend here after Tactical Officer Neelix. So he can definitely make some faction shuttles for you, even without a bonus when he's not voyaging. And then sort of a 2-for-1 at the end, you have Quinn at 2 of 5 and New Eden Pike at 1 of 5. Now, diplomacy was definitely not something that you're hurting in, but like I said, you can't afford to be too choosy on a roster that spends no money. So both of these crew, even though you don't have a huge diplomacy need, are good in their own right. Right now, the Continuum collection requires 1 gold to finish, and you don't have any of the other golds on your roster. So Quinn, already sitting there at 2 stars, will save you that little bit of honor. If you're able to finish all of the other purples and the blue in that collection, that boost will apply to all of your crew, and that'll be a nice little hit. As well, he's still a top 40 Voyager, so he will help you out there. And a big dip base never goes missing because there are always diplomacy command security seats to fill on faction events. Similarly, New Eden Pike, he has, I think, also top 40 voyage power, another big base, but that skill set, the dip command psi, is becoming very bloated. Now, maybe not so much for any particular roster, but that also increases the chance that you're going to see it down the line in free giveaways, in mega crew. So humanoid figure had just popped up with that skill set. So there's quite a bit of overlap with what you already have, but in terms of pure crew quality, he would beat out some of these other names on the list, and you'll have to decide if you want to go for the quality in the long game or if you want to address a more immediate need first. And then number 11 on the list, I thought it'd be interesting to talk about him, is Dr. Bones McCoy, that big one-skill wonder. Now, you have him at 4 of 5. And in talking with the fellows earlier, we thought, oh, well, that's, that would be an easy pick. It's only one site. You get a big base hit. But then we thought, well, does that really change anything on your roster? And the answer is no. He's already your number one base. He's going to be making those shuttles regardless. And some of the value in getting a crew like that is being able to replace that faction seat and letting that rarer med skill, that med crew, go on a voyage instead. But since he's already occupying those seats, that's not going to be a huge boon for you. It's not going to be a big boost to what he's already doing. So I would take him in a behold if you see him, but I wouldn't spend a citation on him at this point. Okay, the second roster we have to look at is PrimeRez. They say, hi there. I'm a friend of Captain Insano. I love listening to your guys' shows during the week and have really been enjoying the weekend advice shows too. I was wondering if I could get your guys' advice on my roster and see if I need to tweak things here or there to improve my game. This roster is a 180 from the one that we just talked about. He has over 100 golds immortalized. So even though we have some good options there, we're going to look more into, instead of crew that can do everything, crew that can help you in one or two areas, because you can afford to do that when you have this huge wealth of crew who can cover your voyages or your shuttles or what have you. First name on the list would be Leonardo da Vinci. We talk about him a lot, and even though he may not be top 5 in any one area, you already have him at 4 stars out of 5. So this would not be a big spend. And at this point in your roster, you can afford to think about one-offs. He has a number of traits, including, coincidentally, cultural figure, which is coming in this upcoming faction. He has strong traits overall, which help voyage antimatter, like we just talked about. He has that double collection hit. And Eng Med is in everybody's bottom 2 for voyage power, no matter what your roster looks like. So if you're not guaranteed a 10-hour run in that combo yet, then he'll help out there as well. Number 2 on the list is Wrathful Kirk. Now, you already have him at 3 stars. And security engineering and command engineering are sort of in middling power on your voyages. He still has good power there, so he will help. But really what you want him for is that monster event tally. 20 events to date, 15 of which have been faction. And even though you have a very well-developed roster, he would still be your number 2 security base overall. So there's a chance he makes some runs on your requisition shuttles. If you want to make a faction run, he won't need that bonus to still help out your success rate quite a bit. Up next, Dr. Van Gogh. Now, he's very similar to Leonardo da Vinci. Again, you have the collections, you have the Eng Med, you have very similar voyage power. He also gets more regular events than a one-off name like Da Vinci would. But he's only sitting there at 1 of 5, so it's going to be more of an investment, but I think you can expect similar results. Pardon me. He'll help out in the same areas, so you can look forward to that if you think Da Vinci is a good fit for you too. The next name on the list, I don't think we've talked about much at all, and it's sort of a departure, but I think it fits your situation perfectly. Krenim guest Chakotay and Krenim guest Paris. Now, the big reason I'm going for that is because they are diplomats. I looked through your roster. Unfortunately, Data Core I don't think has the full collection information, but from what I could do a head count for, you've completed every collection, every stat boosting collection except Diplomat. Now, I think as of right now, you need 22 golds to finish it if you've finished all the super rares and rares, etc. So Krenim guest Chakotay will help you there. He's also a top 40 Voyager right now. Now, the skill set's not great. It's a little bloated, but the big science base for his occasional event will pop, and then he will be a regular Voyager for you, even though he's not going to be a massive improvement. But in terms of finding good diplomats that are worth citing, that's hard to do. So Krenim guest Chakotay, I think, is an easy one. And then Krenim Paris, his power is lower in most areas. Both of these crew at 1 of 5, by the way, but Paris has an edge in events. He's had 15 to date, 10 of which have been factions, so that's a pretty good clip. You want him mostly for the diplomat, but even if you end up freezing him at some point, you will pull him out for events. He has the number 1 Paris diplomacy, and I think his command is very close as well. Next up on the list is Bridge Officer number 1. She's there at 3 stars out of 5. Now, Dip Enges is in your the bottom half of your voyage power ranks, and she's very good there, as is another crew that right next to her interfacial forge. They'll both help you out with Eng Dip. They both have some event potential. Now with Geordi, you know what you're getting. He's had minimum 2 events each year, and even though not a ton of factions, I would take that steady clip of events and hope that the tide turns on which ones are factions. A lot of them have been expeditions, which won't be rerun. And then Bridge Officer number 1, we have the Strange New World show coming up. So a lot of times we recommend fusing that New Eden Pike because he should get event work as the captain of the show. Bridge Officer number 1 is along for the ride. She'll at least get a few bonuses, just as she has with the introduction of Discovery. Next up on the list, a crew that we've talked a lot about recently, although not really in the context of citations, and that's Maquis Takeover Seska. She's there at 1 star out of 5, and she's not a name you think of immediately, but she's exactly the kind of, put it in air quotes, risk that you can take for a very well-developed roster, because she has maybe the most eventable traits in the game. She has 8 traits. All of them are in a pretty good size bonus pool. They're not going to be human or Federation where you think, they'll never ever get a bonus. 4 of them are racial traits: Bajoran, Maquis, Cardassian, Hologram. That is very rare. 1 of them has already had a collection, and with this sudden collection explosion we've had 3 months in a row now, certainly another trait collection could happen. She's also the number 1 command base for 7 out of those 8 traits. I think only Palwraith Keiko is above her in Villain. So when her number does get called, she will absolutely ride on faction shuttles. She's also a competent Eng Command Voyager, which even if she only makes 1 or 2 combos for you with the number of crew you have, that is still a fairly significant upgrade. And in the theme of toolbox or screwdriver crew, as we call them, Baul sitting there at 1 of 5 is a good one. The Sec Eng, Sec Med, Eng Med, those are all combos that most people struggle with, and even though he's probably not going to make any shuttles for you or do anything outside of voyages, being able to boost your weakest area there. Again, if you're struggling to hit 10 hours on Med Command, Eng Med, you probably got all the other ones on lockdown, but those 2 are pretty tough to get consistently 100% of the time. And if that saves you having to babysit voyages, having to recall early, that's definitely worth it. And the last name on the list, pardon me. Suddenly I'm missing my co-host. The last name on the list, Age of Sail Worf. And he is definitely a Stars and Garters pick. He left the note for me to read, "Get this mensch leveled and start up, gadzooks." Now, he does have some merits on his own. He's right around Voyage 60, and even though that's not a world beater for his skill set, Command IPSec, that may allow you to freeze another crew who's doing a similar job but won't get the number of events that he will. He's the number 1 Wharf Security and the number 2 Wharf Command. He's had 16 events today. He's got a couple traits in there, most notably Klingon. Now they've had, I think, 7 events to date, including 1 Mega. And now that we've had the 2nd Mirror Mega, the 2nd Vulcan Mega, it seems that WRG is not afraid to repeat some of those Megas. So I could definitely see another 4 or 5, maybe even double that event count, another 7 Klingon events down the line, at least in the next couple of years. So Command IPSec is not generally something that most rosters want to target, but since you have coverage in almost every area of the game, I think that's a luxury you can afford. Now, the 3rd roster on the list comes in from Gazoo. They say, "Hey guys, I'm pretty much locked into what I need to do to improve my Voyage game, but I need help with skirmishes. I've been taking a defensive stance using the Borg Cube for its hull repair and big gun. Covert Leland for his big gun, and Klingon Taurus and Bellwright's Bashir for their hull repair. I've been getting by and make the top 1500, but I have to work my ass off with slow battles and even have to jump in manually at times so that the Reliant doesn't blast me from the skies." Oh yeah, the Reliant is everybody's least favorite ship, so you're in good company there. "I have 3 questions to help me with my skirmish game. Which ship should I use? Which crew should I use and Cite? And which crew should I be on the lookout for to improve my skirmish battles? Thanks for your help." Well, because the first thing you can do, and it's very easy improvement, switch to the Kraton. In terms of time save, it is right up there with the Valdor as the 2 best options in the game. They have that ability which speeds up the initialization and cooldown time of your crew's abilities. So with speed up, it's under a second added in terms of time save, but you have to run so many battles to rank these days. scores get to 1.2 million, 1.5 million if you want the crew, and that adds up to 15 to 20 minutes of time save over the weekend just by shaving that fraction of a second off. Now it's sitting there fully fused. Data core says it's 9 of 9. I know ships go to 10, so I'm assuming that you have Krenim fully fused. That's a great ship. That's a ship that I use on skirmishes. I think most people use that because of the time save. Now, I mentioned compared to the Valdor, the reason I would pick it over the Valdor is it has better offensive passives, accuracy, crit, etc. are a little bit better, and I think I prefer the seating as well, although it depends on what crew you use. As for which crew should you cite, I don't see any citation candidates right now on your roster to help you with skirmishes. The big 4 names to look out for: Fury Kess, Rurapente Commandant, Captain Killy, and Regic Jarrus. Now the first 3 of those also go to plus 10 attack, so you're getting your attack crew and a instant damage crew all rolled into one. All 4 of them also activate at 6 seconds, which with a 400% damage nuke is as fast as you can get it. There are a few names, Scientist Degra, Polyoda Yar, who initialize faster, but they don't hit as hard. And if you're still trying to eke out battles and you're not quite there, you're going to want that bigger damage, even if it's a hair slower. So Fury Kess, Rurapente Commandant, Captain Killy, I would cite, because getting to 10 attack, having that in combination with 1 crew to save the seat is very important if skirmishes are your aim. Regic Jarrus, he's a fine crew to throw in there as just a nuke. But I found personally that he is an accuracy boost crew, unlike the other ones. I find that he's not quite as good of a replacement for Ardra on ships, who's an accuracy boost with 18,000 crit boost while she's active. Now, what that means is you're doing 180% more damage on your crits. She also has a very healthy passive crit, so I would slot in Ardra first. Now, keep in mind, with all these 6-second crew, if you're using auto battle, they will activate left to right in almost all situations. There are a few edge cases. So I would put Ardra first, and actually in that second seat if you can, because then it will activate her passive stats. And then right now you have Garth of Izar. Now, plus 8 attack is good enough in some cases. It depends how much instant damage you're packing in other areas. If that doesn't cut it for you, you have Locutus fully fused. He's plus 9 attack. He activates very early at 1 second, but he doesn't have that instant damage that Garth does. So I would try one of those 2 as your main attack boost. So Ardra, one of those 2, and then Covert Operative Leland, who you're already using, is a good option. 400% damage without a trigger. That 8-second activation, that hair slow won't kill you, or it won't kill. It will kill them, the other ships. It won't kill you in terms of time save, but you can upgrade them with one of those other names that I already mentioned. So I think you already have the pieces in place that you shouldn't need to struggle. The Reliant shouldn't beat you if you have a fully fused Krenim and those crew in place. So try it out and get back to me about that if you have other questions. Now, I know you said you're good on voyages and other areas of the game, but we already threw in another top 5 names for you who are almost universally good crew worth citing. First 2 names on the list, very similar: Medic Jett Reno, Mycelial Culber, easy for me to say. Now, those are 2 of the 3 med voyagers in the top 50 voyage ranks. So they are far and away the best help you can get from med voyages. I'd cite them on my own roster. I have on more than one roster. I would recommend them for any roster in the game. Now, they're both in Discovery ongoing, which means they should get a smattering of events. And they both contribute to the universally weakest voyage combos, Med Command and Med Eng. They are top 10 names on almost any roster to cite, and very easy picks, especially if you don't get any of the skirmish crew that you might be saving honor for. Another name in this top 5, Determined Janeway. She's sitting there at 4 or 5 already, so it's only going to cost you 1 site. And Security Eng is your 4th weakest voyage combo. She has a fantastic faction rate, the 2nd best in the game. So you'll use her for events, you'll use her for voyages, and she only needs 1 star. 4th name on this list, Carlos Data. Again, Med Eng, that's going to be the theme of your roster improvement here. He will get events. In data events, he's the number 1 science base by almost 300 points, and he's the only med option available. So he will ride, even though it's not a command IPSEC seat that you get, dozens of in a faction event. And again, with that voyage power, it's in the top 25, very good. When we look at this voyage rank estimation, he should still be in the top 100 in 2 years' time. So that is a very safe investment, both for voyages, for events, and if they ever add him in that vanity collection, he'll help you out there too. And the last name on this list is Nanoprobe Phlox. Now, he's stuck out to us not because he's the best name necessarily to cite up, but he's sitting there at 1 of 5. So you already went ahead and bought him. And there are times when you can't always cite for the best option because there is a psychological component here, the sunk cost. I already bought him. He's not doing much for me until I sign him up. Well, that's okay to do because he's actually a very good crew as well. He's a top 100 Voyager with helps out in that tricky Eng-Med stack, which your other crew will as well. He also has the #1 Eng base for all of his traits, including Phlox events, which are not very frequent, but in combination with all of those traits, including Borg, he will pop there from time to time, and the double collection cherry on top. So I think you have all the pieces you need to improve your skirmish now, as well as a lot of good citation options for later on. So thank you to Maximus Prime, PrimeRez, and Gazoo for submitting your rosters. I hope this helped you guys to give you a little bit of a roadmap to work on down the line. I hope everyone watching had a great holidays. We'll see you next time.